There is a medicine that lowers cortisol, repairs your immune system, sharpens your mind, and extends your life. And it has been available to you for free every single day while you have been sitting indoors looking for answers. Segment 1. The healing environment. Your biology was built for. Modern life has quietly engineered one of the most consequential health crises of the current era. Not through the introduction of a new pathogen or a toxic substance, but through the systematic removal of something the human body has depended on for its entire evolutionary history: nature. For the overwhelming majority of human existence, spanning hundreds of thousands of years of biological development, the natural environment was not a recreational destination. It was the permanent, continuous context within which every physiological system in the human body evolved to function. The sounds of moving water and wind through vegetation, the spectrum of natural light shifting across the day, the irregular terrain beneath the feet, the microbial diversity present in soil and air, the fractal visual patterns of trees and landscapes. These were not aesthetic preferences. They were the biological inputs around which the nervous system, the immune system, the endocrine system, and the cardiovascular system were calibrated over millennia. The modern built environment, sealed buildings, artificial lighting, climate-controlled interiors, flat engineered surfaces, and the digital overstimulation that now occupies the majority of human sensory experience is, in evolutionary terms, a radical and recent departure from the conditions under which human biology was constructed. And the body is responding to that departure with a precision that research is only beginning to fully document. The consequences of nature deprivation are not abstract. They are measurable, systemic, and cumulative. And the healing effects of deliberate, consistent nature exposure are equally measurable, producing changes in cortisol, blood pressure, immune function, neurological activity, and psychological health that no pharmaceutical intervention has yet replicated with equivalent breadth and absence of side effects. Segment 2. What nature does to your body at a biological level. The healing effects of nature exposure are not produced by relaxation alone. They operate through specific, documented biological mechanisms that address some of the most pervasive health challenges of contemporary life simultaneously. The cortisol and nervous system response. Within minutes of entering a natural environment, a forest, a park, a coastal landscape, or any space with meaningful natural features, measurable changes begin occurring in the body's stress physiology. Cortisol levels drop, blood pressure decreases, heart rate variability, one of the most sensitive indicators of autonomic nervous system balance and cardiovascular health, improves. The sympathetic nervous system, which governs the fight-or-flight stress response and which is chronically overactivated by the demands and stimulation of modern urban environments, begins to downregulate. The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for rest, repair, digestion, and recovery, assumes greater dominance. Research conducted across multiple countries and population groups consistently documents these physiological shifts occurring within 15 to 30 minutes of nature immersion and persisting for hours following the exposure. The nervous system does not merely feel calmer in natural environments. It measurably is calmer at a hormonal and autonomic level that influences every other biological system it governs. The visual environment of nature plays a specific neurological role in this response. Natural landscapes are characterized by fractal geometry, self-repeating patterns of complexity that appear consistently in trees, coastlines, clouds, and flowing water. Neuroimaging research has demonstrated that the visual processing of fractal patterns produces a measurable reduction in physiological stress indicators, activating neural pathways associated with aesthetic pleasure and reducing activity in the prefrontal cortex regions associated with rumination, worry, and cognitive overload. The visual complexity of nature is not simply beautiful. It is neurologically regulatory. The immune system restoration. Among the most compelling and extensively researched mechanisms of nature's healing effect is its direct impact on immune function, specifically through the inhalation of phytoncides, the volatile organic compounds released into the air by trees and plants as part of their own biological defense systems. When inhaled, phytoncides produce a significant and sustained increase in the activity and count of natural killer cells, the specialized immune cells responsible for identifying and destroying virus-infected cells, bacteria, and cancerous cells throughout the body. Research following participants through multi-day forest immersion experiences documents natural killer cell activity remaining measurably elevated for up to 30 days following the exposure, a duration that suggests phytoncide inhalation is not producing a temporary immune stimulation, but a meaningful recalibration of baseline immune capacity. The soil microbiome presents an additional immunological dimension. Contact with soil, through bare feet on natural ground, gardening, or simply spending time in environments where soil microorganisms are present in the air, exposes the human immune system to the microbial diversity it requires for healthy immune regulation. The hygiene hypothesis, and its more refined successor, the biodiversity hypothesis, proposes that the dramatic reduction in human exposure to natural environmental microorganisms is a primary driver of the global rise in allergic, autoimmune, and inflammatory conditions. Nature contact is not merely restorative for the immune system. It may be foundational to its proper development and function. The cardiovascular and metabolic response. Natural environments reduce blood pressure through multiple simultaneous mechanisms: reduced sympathetic activation, lower cortisol, reduced ambient noise stress, and the gentle physical activity most nature exposure involves. Research conducted in forest environments documents systolic and diastolic blood pressure reductions comparable in magnitude to those produced by first-line antihypertensive interventions, without side effects, without cost, and with benefits that extend across multiple additional biological systems simultaneously. Walking on natural terrain, uneven surfaces, gentle gradients, varied ground composition, engages a significantly broader range of stabilizing musculature than walking on flat artificial surfaces. The proprioceptive challenge of natural terrain activates the deep stabilizers of the foot, ankle, knee, and hip, improving neuromuscular coordination, joint stability, and postural control in ways that engineered walking surfaces do not. The metabolic cost of natural terrain movement is meaningfully higher per unit of distance than equivalent movement on flat ground, producing greater cardiovascular and muscular benefit from the same duration of activity. The neurological and cognitive restoration. Attention restoration theory, one of the most extensively validated frameworks in environmental psychology, proposes that the directed attention required by modern cognitive tasks, screens, deadlines, decision-making, information processing, depletes a finite neurological resource that only certain types of environmental exposure can restore. Natural environments engage what researchers describe as involuntary attention, the gentle, effortless fascination produced by moving water, wind in trees, wildlife, changing light, and the subtle complexity of natural landscapes. This form of attention is neurologically restorative precisely because it does not demand the focused, effortful cognitive engagement that depletes directed attention resources. The mind is engaged, but not taxed, stimulated, but not overloaded. And in that particular neurological state, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, working memory, and creative cognition, recovers its capacity in ways that rest alone does not produce. Research consistently demonstrates that time in natural environments improves working memory, creative problem-solving, sustained attention, and cognitive flexibility, outcomes that have direct and measurable implications for performance, decision-making, and psychological well-being far beyond the duration of the nature exposure itself. Segment 3. The dose and the practice. The research establishes not only that nature heals, but how much exposure is required to produce meaningful physiological benefit. And the answer is more accessible than most people assume. Studies examining the dose-response relationship between nature exposure and health outcomes identify meaningful benefits beginning at approximately 2 hours per week, a threshold achievable through relatively modest daily increments. 20 minutes of morning outdoor exposure, a lunchtime walk through a park, an evening spent in a garden or natural space. The cumulative exposure does not need to occur in a single extended session to produce benefit. It accumulates across shorter, consistent exposures throughout the week. The quality of the exposure matters alongside the quantity. Passive presence in a natural environment while remaining engaged with a phone or device substantially reduces the neurological and physiological benefits, because the attentional and neurological mechanisms through which nature produces its healing effects require genuine sensory engagement with the environment rather than incidental physical proximity to it. Barefoot contact with natural ground, grass, soil, sand, produces an additional physiological benefit through a mechanism called earthing or grounding. Direct skin contact with the Earth's surface allows the transfer of electrons that neutralize free radicals, reduce oxidative stress, and produce measurable reductions in inflammatory markers. The research base for grounding is earlier stage than that for other nature-based interventions, but the preliminary evidence is consistent, and the practice requires nothing beyond the willingness to remove footwear in a natural setting. Morning nature exposure carries particular chronobiological value. Natural light in the morning hours, even on overcast days, where outdoor light intensity exceeds indoor artificial light by orders of magnitude, calibrates the circadian rhythm through retinal light sensors that artificial lighting cannot adequately stimulate. This morning light calibration governs the timing of cortisol production, melatonin secretion, core body temperature cycling, and the entire cascade of hormonal events that determine sleep quality, energy levels, mood regulation, and metabolic function throughout the following 24 hours. Every system in your body was built in relationship with the natural world. Your nervous system, your immune system, your cardiovascular system, your neurological architecture, none of them evolved in sealed buildings under artificial light, insulated from soil, sky, and the biological complexity of living landscapes. The healing that nature provides is not supplementary to the interventions of modern medicine and modern wellness. In many respects, it is more foundational, addressing the conditions of biological functioning that determine how well every other intervention performs. 2 hours per week, 20 minutes per morning, bare feet on natural ground, eyes present to the environment rather than a screen. These are not dramatic commitments. They are the minimum conditions for allowing your biology to access the healing it has been designed to receive since long before modern life taught you to look for it elsewhere. Go outside. Your body already knows what to do when you get there. Original script, all rights reserved. For Faceless channel use.